Alright, good morning everyone. It's day 80 or day 81, I'm not sure. I think it's day 81 of the year of fear. And I am outside again. The gaps between my getting up is it's getting smaller, getting back to that reiterative process. So what's the big lesson for the day? I'm not sure whether or not I'd said this before. And with daylight savings rolling times forward, I realize I'm getting up at basically outside at 4:30 for the last week, and so that's been a bit of adjustment, but it's okay. But for the lesson, something I've become keenly aware is that I realize we live in a very interesting time where we have so many options, distractions, and ways of doing things, and I realize that I think I'm lost most of the primordial joys in life. Now, I don't think it's based entirely off of this principle, but I think this principle has more to do with our happiness, specifically in the medium to long term, than anything else, right? And it's this. And it's really simple. You know, it's the law of the harvest. You get what you put in. The seeds you sow today will dictate that which you reap tomorrow, right? But what that means is I think like a lot of the happiness and the output we get from things comes from what we are investing in. And so the thing is, you just have to make sure you're investing in something that you care about or that you want, right? Or that you see yourself long term. So you have to kind of understand medium to long term, do I really want this, right? Understanding all the things that go into it. And then after that point, it's about committing to it, right? Because that's what's going to dictate whether or not you get what you're seeking, medium to long term, if that, right? But and there's so many things that happen medium to long term you can't control. But if you are always kind of half putting in and you're not really quite sure that you want what you want, or that you want what you're getting, the idea is, you're never going to be happy with it. And I think that's one of the biggest things, especially our generation, like millennials and like younger generations are struggling with, is understanding that the thing that brings the fruit in life doesn't come from finding this perfect thing, from investing and making it the perfect thing, right? And you have to make it that way. You have to invest in it. You have to direct it. Like if you think about a painting, or when you're drawing, like when you think about Rembrandt or, Michelangelo, all these really great artists, to get like some of their best works that they were probably most impressed with, that took a large amount of commitment and time to get to that level of skill, and that came from a consistent commitment to getting better. Until one day, Raphael's probably like, man, I made that, holy crap, that's some good stuff, right? And recognizing that the quality that we get and we seek in our life comes from the investment we put in, specifically our relationships. So like if you want like better friends, you have to be a better friend, and like there's no way around that. And the idea, I think sometimes, especially like we live in this day and age where everyone's like, oh, I gotta find someone with Tinder or this and that, when the requirements for finding someone you liked were really basic. But now, because everything is there's so many options, that now people feel less inclined to develop characteristics that lend themselves to long-term growth, right? And as much as the industry and society has changed, the basic makeup of what makes a happy and structured relationship hasn't. That's based on principles that supersede any time, space, or perception, right? And the idea that, sometimes like, oh, well, it's just a compatibility thing. And the reality is like, if people are learning universal characteristics of like human excellence, like chances are they're probably going to get along, or their relationship is going to function on a higher end of the spectrum than even those who might have a certain high compatibility in terms of their likes, their dislikes, their dispositions, temperaments, and things of that nature. But if they're not trying to develop their character, then it doesn't matter, because it's just going to fall apart because they haven't developed the characteristics, things like patience, kindness, forbearance, forgiveness, the ability to listen, the ability to communicate, the ability to establish boundaries. Like, those are skills that aren't based off of personality, but are basic life skills, right? That we teach our children to do. And understanding their identities and the identities of others, respecting others, being able to communicate, manners, right? And that's the biggest problem now, is that because people aren't learning manners, you see a lot of the things that manners help create, which is like a safe society and a society where people trust each other, and a community which is cooperative, that's eroding, right? Like, it's funny, like, I go and I spend so much time. So for my job, I spend a lot of time meeting people, right? And it's crazy, like, how much I notice manners. Like, I notice how much people have manners and how much they spend time and their ability to communicate with me, someone they just met, right? And one of the things that helps me bridge the gap so well is that I have manners and basic capacity. And as much as people like to say, oh, we're evolving, we're getting past that, when you really get down to the nuts and bolts, like when you're building a business or trying to sell something or trying to show a product or something, it's funny how much those basic principles, those basic underlying facts and ideas of how human beings think and feel are always going to come through, right? That's why, like, people always say, like, salesmen are shady, is because, like, it's really hard to believe someone who's, like, always smiling and saying yes and being agreeable. But the idea behind that is that there are certain characteristics that lend themselves towards community building, right? And traditionally, before, women were really, really good at this. Like, women tend to be more agreeable, and they tend to be, more patient, right? Or at least genetically is what they said. And, a lot of that was built for child rearing because, raising children is difficult and such. Anyway, don't mean to get long-winded. It's almost 8 minutes now. But the idea is, it's just patience and developing characteristics of, things like kindness, being able to listen, and recognizing that it's a skill thing. And, people like who kind of flip through Tinder or anything, and we put so much pressure on people to, like, impress us, when in reality, we just need to be really plain about what it is we're looking for. Like, we can always be kind and courteous to people, but maybe you just don't find someone attractive, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But recognizing that if our attraction is going to be completely dictated on this random set of skills or wants or things that are going to change at the flip of a hat, you're only going to get what you put into life. And if your expectation is so fickle about what you want, so goes the course of your life.